Good morning and welcome to Raw at 4. I'm still Jeff and I am still phenomenally blessed. Even with some difficulties this morning, this is the third time I'm recording this session and thankfully I listened to each session just about right after I recorded it and right after I uploaded it. Because typically what I do is I'll tell myself I need to get into my cardio routine and then listen. Like that's my reward to myself for getting through cardio is you'll get to listen to the podcast you recorded. But today I decided to just listen first because it's Saturday. And on Saturdays, it's usually a 3 hour workout for me from 5 to 8. So I knew I had a little more time. And as Saturday is the day that ends my week, I thought I'd give myself a gift early and listen to the recording and see where I was at. A lot of ways I could take this, and it starts into having control. I could be really pissed off and upset that I spent an hour recording and I'm now half hour late to starting my workout, just about half hour late to start my workout. Or I could just say this is my third opportunity to make this fucking amazing because the first two times were pretty good, but I could do better. And that's where I'm at. So, I wanted to start a couple of different ways today. One is, as I close the week, usually I look at myself physically and I say, okay, it's time for a haircut. And if you're looking, you're like, well, you're bald. And I'm like, yeah, I'm bald, but I still got to cut my hair, which is an ironic thing, right? To maintain myself in the clean. And for all the bald men out there, shout out to you. I hope you're feeling great about your baldness. And here's why I referenced that. Last Christmas, I don't see my grandparents very often. And this has been happening to me since like the pandemic. It just, I don't know, it just stopped growing, whatever. And I had to see my grandparents for a while, dropped off some gifts. And when my grandfather saw me, I called him daddy. He's like my father. He looked at me, he's like, is that intentional? Like, did you cut your hair off? Or it does and I'm like, no, daddy, it's like that. He looked at my wife for confirmation. Is that real? And my wife's like, yeah, that's pretty real. And it really doesn't bother me, but I reference it because my brother-in-law, who's also balding, he asked me a question when he came down from California. Like, does it make you insecure? And because I kind of suspected I was always going to go bald, I had like that little shiny, I guess you call it the clown thing or whatever. When I would do my hair, I guess I anticipated it. And I always said to myself, when I get there, I'll just cut it all off and it is what it is. But it doesn't, I've never felt insecure about it. I mean, the biggest drawback for me is that I don't get to go to the barbershop anymore. And as a man, the barbershop experience is, I think, vital and important from a camaraderie perspective, a relationship perspective. Like, you build up a really close relationship with your barber. Some people have probably had the same barber for 20, 30 years. And I miss that interaction. I also feel like it's a pain in the balls to maintain myself. Like, to have to go in, it takes me 30 minutes. I got to shave. I got to, cut my hair to be even more bald than what I am, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all good. So shout out to all my bald people out there. Now, today's topic, take control of yourself. Take control of yourself. This is a super important thing for me. It's something that I've been working on now for a little over a year. And I'm going to start with somewhat of an analogy. And I'll use my daughter for this reference. As I mentioned in a short a couple of days ago, my daughter's in musical theater and I take her to rehearsals for a show that she's in. She's in Descendants. And she got Mal. She's pretty cool. She got the lead role. So shout out to my daughter. And when we go to these rehearsals, there's a building, like any building you would expect that accepts kids. And it's between the grades of 5 and 8. So you have anywhere from 11 to 13-year-olds coming in and out. So there's parents that are there. And the parking lot is like kind of like here, and it leads into the building. More back here. And there's a ramp, a wheelchair ramp that extends really far out from really the end of the building. So I can't go as wide on my camera, but let me actually maximize this. It feels bigger that I'm looking at it. But let's just say, the building is that wide and the entrance is over here. And the parking lot is more behind here. I don't know why I keep leaning back, but it's more behind here. This is weird to do. It's more behind here, closer to the entrance. And when I was picking my daughter up, we were leaving And when we left, the mob, if you would, was going down the ramp, all the way down the ramp and around to their car. Why do I keep saying that? There's a significant point here. As you leave the area, right to your left is a very short staircase. It's like 3 steps, easy to miss if you're not conscious and in control and paying attention. And that short little step leads you right into the parking lot where most likely your car is parked. But everyone is going down this fucking ramp and around, back in through and out to their car. And my daughter started going down the ramp. And I stand behind her. I don't know if that's a paranoid father thing or the right thing to do, but I stand behind her because it gives me a lens into what she's probably seeing. And I just tugged on her. I tugged on her hoodie. I said, wait, don't go down the ramp. There's little stairs right here. And oh, okay. And we went down the ramp. Now, what happened when we went down the stairs. What happened when we went down the stairs? All the parents and children behind us, they had an epiphany, and or they just followed the next mob. And I thought that was really, really powerful because all these folks, mind-numbing to me, and I love watching people these days, were just walking down this ramp, taking a longer route to their car because it seemed like everybody was taking that route. And that's part of where I feel that there's a difficulty in taking control and being in control of your mind. And I had this problem, and I still have this problem. I think it's a work in progress. It's something you have to consciously do all the time. And essentially what's happening is the routine of you following the mob is more like your subconscious, right? Like you're interpreting and perceiving the world through all your senses, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your smells, all that 5th grade. And no, I'm not smarter than a 5th grader, but all that shit that they taught you growing up and that's logical and obvious. You're being pulled by these things at all times. And so your subconscious and is delivering you consciously to where it thinks you need to go to be most successful in the least harmful way. And following the mob is really, really easy. So where's the significance of taking control? I'm going to read off some stats to you. So bear with me here. Now, these stats I read off are not intended to paint a picture of, I'm not judging where you are or how you are. I'm just going to go over some average statistics for Americans based on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay. Because of the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, 38% of employed persons did some or all of their work at home. 38%, right? Post-pandemic, 68% of employed persons did some of all their work pre-pandemic. 68% did all their work in a workplace. After the pandemic, the work from home went up to, sorry. I apologize, I went backwards. So 38% pre-pandemic, 38% now that we're in the pandemic of people work from home. 24% did so prior to the pandemic. On average, you spend about 8 hours a day working for those who worked at their workplace. This is interesting. For those who worked at home, they spent an average of 6 hours working. So you're working less at home, all right? In conjunction, household activities. We spend about 3 hours on household activities. The average American home has 3.1 people. And if you have a child, unless you're in a relationship with 2 other people, if you're not a standard one-to-one relationship, and hey, whatever you do, you do. Let's just assume you have a child. If you have a child less than the age of 6, you're spending 2.2 hours or about 2 hours, 2.5 hours with your child. If you have a child between the age of 6 and 17, you're only spending 42 minutes with them. In addition, the average American makes approximately $54,000 a year. Why is all that important? You have to hunt to eat. It's always been that way. We're just more civilized, right? So if we have to hunt to eat, we know we got to go out there and grind. Cool. What is in and around us going to hunt to eat? We're taking care of our family. We have a child less than 6. We know we're spending a couple of hours with them, 2.5 hours. 6 to 17, we're spending less than an hour. And a lot of that, as you get into teenagers, probably because they're trying to do their own thing. And also because I think you're just not in control of that relationship anymore mindfully. And here's why I argue that. If you are in control and you know you got to go hunt to eat for 8 hours, how are you organized in and around that. And if you were like me, you got up with just enough time to get dressed, just enough time to make your kids something to eat, pack the lunch, get them out to school, and then start your day. And when you did that, you probably gave them a bowl of Cheerios or a piece of toast because you didn't have time. Monday through Friday is so difficult. Now, what's ironic is because you don't have time and you send your kids out with a bowl of cereal and a piece of toast, when you arrive to work or when you are now at home working and everything is clear and you have a little more time, you go get that bacon, egg, and cheese, and you go get that big cup of coffee, and you go get your Danishes, and you set yourself up to be successful and productive for that day. My argument is if you were mindful, which I wasn't, and I've now come to this conclusion and realization and change that, why would you send your kid to school with a bowl of cereal if you're having a bacon, egg, and cheese? If you were in control, you wouldn't do that. And you probably haven't given that thought. You're just like, well, I'm getting them out. It's all good. We're not judging. Just explaining if you had control, is that really the outcome you would want to produce for your child? That's the question I ask myself. When you're at work performing your duties, how mindful are you? And it probably depends on what your job is. But I'll say it like this. I'm in a community of about 72 homes. Recently, we were invited to a gathering in the community where folks were socializing. It was kind of like a cocktail, it was a cocktail party. And I'll say there was roughly 60 people there. And everybody was, for the most part, every one person was attached to someone, meaning there was a couple meaning two. All right. Well, you 3, 4, fucking 5 people, relationships, whatever, do your thing. But I'm talking about what was there, pretty much average and standard. We must have engaged with 20 out of the 30 couples. And the theme in those conversations really troubled me, particularly because I'm on this journey of mindfulness and being as much in control as possible. The conversations, and I'm paraphrasing most, but here were the themes. Hey, how are you doing? I'm good. But let me tell you, I'm so happy to be out tonight. Work is so difficult. The kids are so difficult. Everything I got to do to maintain myself is overwhelming. And I can't find time for myself. I can't find a way to break free and just, right? And it was constant, every couple you talk to. And I have a difficulty having those conversations because whenever you're inside of my gate, whenever you're inside of my bubble, my energy space, especially if I'm with my wife or my children, in this instance, my wife, I'm very protective of that energy space. I don't let nothing penetrate it that doesn't make sense with my mindset now, because then essentially what happens is I become part of, or I feel like I become part of, and I was part of, just the mob of people following the ramp. One, because the ramp was probably easier. It was more in sight. It was more obvious. And it's just a little ramp you go up. We got to hunt to eat. We got to put in the 8 hours. We have someone that we're caring for, most likely on average. I got to do what I got to do to get those things done. And I'm not doing it in a way that seems to be conducive to positivity. Because you're complaining. And why are you complaining? What did you think would happen when you had a child? I mean, what did you think would happen? Did you think it would be super easy and that you'd be elated every second of every day? Is that also your thought process in general? Why am I not happy every second of every day? That's impossible. I'd argue you could maintain a high level of happiness if you focus on it, and that's what we're going to get into. That's what we're really talking about today. But the execution of your quote unquote mundane, the averages of what you're going through every day, not knocking you, not saying that you should be demoralized because you don't have the exact career you want or the exact money you want or the exact life you want. But my argument is that it starts with you and the realization that your ramp, your mob, you are just inclusive of an average set of people, because it's in the data what the average American worker does. And if you were really, really in control, and this is the argument I made with myself, that I had with myself, that changed my perspective on life. Why would you be in the situation you're in if it doesn't make you extremely happy? I'm not saying that you're destined to get everything you absolutely want. I'm not saying that your destiny is even easy to attain. In fact, I'd argue the opposite. It's extremely hard. But the reason you can't get from in and around yourself is because you're not in control. You're not mindful of what you're doing. You're in this ramp in this mob of life that just is, oh, I guess I'm supposed to do this. And your subconscious carries you through consciously to keep you safe and protected. And you just go through the process. You're going through a process, and you're not conscious of that process. You're not in control of that process. You're following through. You're executing because your child is safe. Your family is safe for the most part. You have the general necessities. Most of us, hopefully, you're blessed with the basic essentials of shelter, food, water, a means to an end. But I'd argue, the way I argued with myself, that your lack of control or your lack of happiness is from lack of control. And your lack of control is from a simple desire or inability to bring yourself to consciousness. The premise is simple. You don't have what you want because you haven't decided to go get it. You are looking for me time because you haven't processed the possibility of me time is inclusive of everything you've built to become you. So you are your job. You are your family. You are what is in and around your bubble and your circle, your energy space. But you don't have control of the outcomes, right, wrong, or indifferent, because you just follow that ramp. You just flow in the direction that they think or you think you need to be going in. And I'm not suggesting that it's not okay or good. What I'm saying is you can't show up to a party, life's party, any party, a cocktail party, complain about what really are blessings that you have. The ability to complain is a blessing. You're out of control. You're stressed about your job that's paying you. You're getting money. You're out of control. You're having difficulty with your children, your relationships. They're not evolving or being nurtured the way you want it. You're out of control. And then you accept it. That's my difficulty, is you sit back and accept, well, this is what it is. This is what it is. And my argument to you is that you will stay there and never move. You're not even going backwards. You're just at a flat, standstill pace while everything is going right by you, because you haven't taken control. Because if you did, you wouldn't send your kid to school with a bowl of Cheerios and a piece of toast while you eat a bacon, egg, and cheese with a big ass coffee and some Danishes. You'd create the time to maximize every relationship you're in. You'd create the time to take the time to control mindfully and consciously what you're doing. Stop. Pause. Take some time to acknowledge where you are consciously. And while you're going through your mob and flow, ask yourself, am I in control of what I'm doing? Am I in control of how I'm feeling? Am I in control of where I'm going? This is Raw at 4. The next time we speak will be on Monday, as Sunday is my day of reflection and rest. And when we talk Monday, we're going to talk about the explicit process of starting to take control of your life through your thoughts and through consciousness. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. May everything you desire come to you exactly how you deserve. Row it forth.